Morning, it's July 7th. This is to my liberal friends. Where's Ross Perot when you need him? The specter of a third-party candidate in the 2024 presidential race is starting to gain some traction and is getting more attention from both major parties. Poll after poll has shown that the majority of Americans favor someone other than Joe Biden or Donald Trump as their candidate of choice, and yet it's beginning to look like a rematch is in the books. Right now, a group by the name of No Labels is making the necessary moves to get a candidate on the ballot. They have qualified for the ballot in Arizona, Colorado, Alaska, and Oregon. They're gathering signatures in Maine and multiple other states. The creation of this group was formed by a group of centrist Republicans and Democrats. I suspect they detest Donald Trump more than they dislike Joe Biden, and they have said that if Biden is clearly well ahead by the spring of 2024, they would probably abandon their efforts. But that's not stopped the Democrats and their friends in the media from demonizing the group. Democrats claim the group will elect Donald Trump if the third party does get on the ballot. The press is piling on with disdain, digging not so deep to report that one of the donors to No Labels is Harlan Crow, the rich friend of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. But anyone who knows Mr. Crow knows he's not a fan of Mr. Trump. Its national co-chairs include Ben Chavis, a civil rights legend, and Joe Lieberman, former Democratic senator and vice presidential candidate. Former GOP governors Larry Hogan and Pat McCrory are also co-chairs. None are admirers of Mr. Trump. The last time we had a major third-party candidate was in 1992 when the aforementioned Ross Perot ran against George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. He was able to get 19% of the vote and was regarded as a spoiler for Bush. Most analysts felt that most of those votes came from Republicans who were upset with Bush reneging on his pledge not to raise taxes. Bill Clinton won the race with 43% of the popular vote. The last three elections have shown that a sizable chunk of GOP voters don't want to vote for a party dominated by Donald Trump. A third-party candidate might be a safe harbor again for those voters to abandon Trump again. But the Democrats see another major problem for them. The progressive complaint is that if a No Labels ticket made it onto enough state presidential ballots in 2024, it couldn't win, but it could be a spoiler. Democrats say a third candidate would take more votes from Mr. Biden, perhaps deny him the 270 electoral college votes to win, and throw the election into the House. With each state House delegation having one vote for president, they say Mr. Trump would be the likely winner if he's the candidate. But the fact remains that polling shows that the public is open to a third party at this time. It shows that 59% of all voters would consider a moderate independent, including 53% of Republicans and, shockingly, 59% of Democrats. The not-so-hidden message in this poll is that the voting public is getting sick and tired of the hyper-partisan actions of the far right and far left in Congress. The solution to this problem would be simple. Find better candidates than Biden and Trump. Biden is too old and shows definite signs of dementia that comes to so many over 80. The troubles with his son Hunter continue to dog him, and there are so many unanswered questions about the money from overseas, and did Biden himself receive any of the money? I would also have to question his real character. Hunter Biden fathers a child out of wedlock, and Joe Biden refuses to acknowledge the child. What did that little girl do to deserve that kind of treatment? And yet, day after day, Biden tells us how proud he is of his son. I don't think I need to go into much detail about the failings of Donald Trump. He's simply a man driven by his own ego and unable to recognize his own shortcomings. He hires people and praises them and then viciously turns on them if they have the temerity to challenge him in any way. The obvious lack of concern over how to handle classified material makes him somewhat of a security threat. Now, I, for one, wish that Chris Sununu, the Republican governor of New Hampshire, would have stayed in the race and run. Being totally honest, I don't see anyone on the Democratic bench that I feel good about ascending to the Oval Office. The entire party seems consumed with identity politics, and it refuses to acknowledge the problems facing the nation, including crime. In the end, we might get a third-party candidate, and they might well accomplish two things. First, they could siphon off enough votes from one candidate to the other to swing the electoral votes of a state. Or second, as I mentioned, they win some electoral votes, and no candidate has a majority in the Electoral College, and this would throw the liberals in this country into a rage. I don't know what's going to happen, but stay tuned to watch. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, recommend it to your friends. Please hit the subscribe button. And if you have a comment, please leave it. Thank you.